So we are speaking with Mary Crockett, who is the co-author of Dream Boy, a young adult contemporary fantasy out now through Sourcebooks Fire. Hi, Mary.
Hi.
So, okay, Dream Boy. Your main character is Annabelle, whose dreams are consumed by a boy, her dream boy. And then this exact boy appears in her life and is indeed her perfect dream boy. So that's all to the good. But then Annabelle's dreams shift to the bad. Tell us a bit about Annabelle and what happens once that starts to happen.
Well, like you said, she's a big dreamer. She's literally and figuratively. She's kind of someone who isn't very content with her life, so she kind of escapes into dream as a way of kind of exploring other options. And sometimes, the things that come from your dreams aren't always, or appear in your dreams aren't always happy things. I mean, there's kind of both sides to any coin, right? So not only does her perfect dream boy appear in her life, but then some of her nightmare figures may start creeping in as well. And there's the question of how you face both sides of that fantasy, really, more than reality.
I see.
It is a fantastical.
Right. So is it spoilery to ask, does the boy factor in a bad way? Like, does he factor into her nightmares? Does he begin to...
Well, he's not exactly everything she expected him to be. I think a lot of times you have fantasies that occur in your head, and in your head there are these wonderful things, but when you actually are confronted with the reality of them, they kind of feel different than you might. Everything that feels so kind of perfect in a dream might feel a little bit less than perfect in reality. So there is a little bit of that. There's, the suggestion of, is this dream really what you would want in your life if you could have it? So there is the question of that with him.
Right. Okay.
I guess that's not too spoilery. I don't know.
Gotcha. You've described this as sort of a horror comedy. So what does that look like? How do you walk the line between horror and comedy when you're writing? Were there points you just thought, okay, that's horrifying now and not funny? Or was it the other way around? Like, okay, that's really funny. How do we make it creepy?
Well, Annabelle tells the story. So the voice that carries the story, I find her funny. I mean, I find her voice very wry. She kind of observes things. She doesn't say a lot out loud, but I think that's what kind of brings the comedy to it, that she's always kind of finding something that's a little bit left of center.
Right.
So her voice and her friends' voices, I think, create comic moments in the book, but then the overarching narrative has its moments of horror, too, because obviously, if dreams come true, so can nightmares, and that's a scary thing.
Okay. Also, the book has been described as is about the aftermath of dreams and the desire to fit into the puzzle of your own life. Do you think dreams help us do this in real life, or do dreams sort of belong strictly in the thoughts running amok while our brains restore themselves via sleep arena? Do you think they play some sort of role for real?
I do. I think that dreams really help us kind of understand what's going on in our lives. I think it's a way of our deepest self talking to ourselves. Maybe that part of you that you don't kind of want to listen to, or you don't, kind of pay attention to the way you should. Its way of being heard, I think, is through your dreams. And not to say that everything you dream is really what you want, or everything you dream is really what you're scared of. It's more of a kind of a way of yourself having a conversation with yourself. That's kind of how I see dreams. So, I think it really can help you to maybe not consciously figure out your life, but I think subconsciously kind of see how things connect in your life.
Mm-hmm. So this is a co-authored book. It's co-authored with Madeline Rosenberg. Tell me about co-writing a book. How did that work for you, and was there a learning curve?
Right. It was really a very interesting experience for me, because I have poetry background. So writing a fiction book was kind of a bit of a challenge to begin with, but in some ways kind of doing it with my friend, as much as anything, made me committed to it, because I tried to write fiction before, and I was like, this is so long. I have to keep putting words down. Oh, my goodness. And I would get to the point where I was like, okay, I'm sick of this book. It's nobody ever is going to want to read this. This is ridiculous. Let's go write a poem. I would kind of go to that point. But I think knowing that Madeline had committed to this book and I had committed to this book, and we both had put in so much work, I wasn't just going to let that happen. So it helped me through those times. I kind of might have lazed out if I was just kind of going solo. So I think, in that respect, it was very helpful for me to have another person kind of signed onto the project so that I wasn't just, I wasn't willing to let her down.
Right.
And in that respect, I didn't let myself down. So that was really a very positive thing.
And so when you're co-writing a book, do you say, well, I will take this chapter and then you will take this chapter? Or how does that process look?
Well, the way we did it, I think you can do it a lot of different ways. We are both pantsers, so we didn't plot out anything. We knew the beginning. We knew kind of where we were headed. We had some sense of what we wanted to happen along the way, but we didn't really have any sort of outline or even, detailed notes or anything like that. So we just started writing. I would write maybe a paragraph, maybe a page, maybe a chapter, and I would send it to her, and then she would kind of go through what I had written and edit things however she wanted. We were very hands-on. There was nothing that was like, oh, this is my part, you can't mess with it. We were both totally free to mess with it, whatever we wanted as we went.
Because you are a poet first, do you feel that discipline influences your prose? Were you a very different writer? Were you bringing different sort of things to the table in the actual creation of the book?
I think in somewhat, yes, we both had different kind of strengths, I think, coming into it, and I think some of that leveled out as we went forward. I consciously was trying not to write poetic prose. I was really working very hard to create a voice that I thought would be somewhat realistic for a teenager, not my kind of ideal of, all the wonderful thoughts a teenager might have, but just kind of try to genuinely capture something I thought was real.
So the question, of course, the logical question here after you've produced a book that is Dream Boy is, have you ever had a prophetic dream?
Oh, right. I have certainly had dreams that kind of talked to what was going on in my life. Certainly talked to my fears and my anxieties and my worries, and nothing quite like a prophetic dream.
Right.
Nothing where it was like, I dreamed this and now it is happening. I certainly have had those senses of like, I would get somewhere and see something and be like, I think I've seen this in a dream, but I'm not sure when it was or what it was. There's always that haze that kind of surrounds the dream life where you're not totally sure what you're remembering and what really happened in your dream and all that. So I've had more of just images that I've seen in my life, and it could be something big like an amazing view from at the end of a hike, where you're looking down off a mountain and be like, I've seen this in a dream. Right. Or it could be some small thing, the way a pencil is on a desk and it's at a certain angle, and it just seems like something I've seen before.
Yeah.
So it could be something very ordinary or something extraordinary.
Right.
But I've never had a dream where actually occurred.
Right. Well, the premise of this book, it just sounds really, really cool and fascinating. I love that it is a comedy horror, or I know that it's not shelved as such, but I love that it has elements of horror and also this funny wry voice narrating. It sounds just great. So let's hear a bit of a snippet of Dream Boy. You are going to read for us the preface.
I've always been a dreamer. Daydreams, night dreams, dreams of grandeur and dreams of escape. If I were an onion and you peeled back the papery outside, you'd find layer after layer of eye-watering dreams. And in the center, where there's that little curly hue of onion heart, there'd be a puff of smoke from the dreams that burned away. It was all just brainwaves, I thought, disconnected, like the notebook my friend Talon keeps. She draws a line down the middle of the page. On the right, she writes everything she remembers about a dream. And on the left, she puts notes about the stuff that's happening in real life, things that might trigger her subconscious. reality on one side, dreams on the other, a clear line between the two. But it turns out there are no clear lines, just a jumble of what is and what might be, and all of it is real.